Okay, it's 5:30. We'll get started if nobody objects. I need to identify everybody on the call. So I am Nancy Mounts, Trish LaBeouf is on, Carol Broussard, Donna Broussard, Lynn Fontaine from Hub International. I think that is the 033, is that you, Angela?
It is.
Okay, thank you. So Angela Lee, Carol Broussard, Donna Broussard, Lynn Fontaine, Billy Guidry, Brooke Brunet, Butch Mouton, Clyde Stansberry, Deborah Thrower, Keith Johnson, Mark Carbo, Mary Jane Woods, Matt Dugas, Mia Lemaire, Shane Pennington, Shannon Crumlish, and Vicky. Thank you, everyone. I hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving. Pursuant to the authority contained in Louisiana Revised Statute 42:17.1, the Employee Retiree Insurance Advisory Committee of the Lafayette Parish School Board will conduct a special meeting on November 30th, 2020 at 5:30. The special meeting of the Employee Retiree Insurance Advisory Committee, scheduled for Monday, November 30th, 2020 at 5:30, will be streamed live via the Lafayette Parish School Board System YouTube channel. A link to watch the meeting can be found on the school board's website at the bottom right of the homepage. So that members of the public may view the meeting, simply click on the YouTube icon and you will be directed to the LPSS page. A period for public comment will be provided before action is taken on an agenda item. Individuals wishing to make a public comment about any posted agenda item will need to call 337-521-7018. The roll call we've done, has anyone added? Trish, will you let us know? I'm expecting Burnell Lemoyne and Katie Landry. If you
Yes, ma'am. I don't see them just yet. I'll let you know.
And Michelle Broussard, she's the only other one we're missing. And thank you to Donna Broussard. CG is ill, so Donna will be secretary tonight. Call the roll, call the meeting to order. First item is approval of the agenda. May I have a motion to approve the agenda, please?
I'll move. This is Donna.
Okay, Donna moves to approve the agenda. Is there a second?
A second. This is Butch.
Hi, Butch. Thank you. So Donna and Butch. Is there any public comment on the agenda? The number is 521-7018. If there is not, we'll go ahead and vote. All those in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
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 Opposed? Nay. I see Katie's on the line.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Miss Nancy, I'm sorry to interrupt. Real quick, we need to take, by open meeting law, we need to take a roll on who voted what. So whoever's taking minutes, I'm sorry for joining in late. So it'd have to say like Brooke, or Miss Nancy, you said yes. So by each person's name, we have to say whether they said yay or nay for open meeting law. My apologies.
When did we start that?
Well, it was supposed to be done like that, and when we reviewed the minutes that are going to go before the board, that was noticed. It was pointed out today.
Okie dokie. Well, thanks. All right.
If it's a unanimous vote, then it would be everybody voting, wouldn't it?
Everybody, correct. So if you have a list of everybody in attendance here, and there's no nays, then when she writes her minutes, she would put Miss Nancy, Miss Mary Jane Woods, Miss Donna Broussard, all were in favor.
I have it listed as everybody approved, and I'm
Okay. The only absentees we have are Michelle Broussard, Shannon Thomas,
and Miss Lemoyne.
Mr. Lemoyne, and CG.
I see Shannon on there. Shannon Thomas.
I'm here. Shannon is here.
Oh, great. Thank you, Shannon.
So it's CG, Miss Lemoyne.
Burnell, I'm here too.
Oh, there we go.
Well, you're not even up there, Burnell. Good thing I didn't realize. There you are at the top. Okay.
So all we have is Michelle Broussard absent.
Michelle and CG.
Oh, CG, that's right. That's why I'm
So
doing.
if it's unanimous, it's everybody except Burnell, I mean, except for Michelle and CG. Is that
Right.
acceptable, Jennifer? Jennifer?
I will find out, and if you're writing it that way right now, we can always adjust it since you know everybody that's here.
I'll
will
make the
find
li-
out.
I'll make the list with their names and make the check.
Okay,
Thank you, Miss Donna.
Sure.
All right, next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes, which CG worked very hard on. The minutes from the first meeting is on the 12th of October. I need a motion and a second to approve the minutes, please.
So approved.
That's
Vote-
good.
That's for just the 12th?
Just the 12th, correct.
Okay,
Second, Carol Broussard.
And second, Carol Broussard.
okay.
And are there any public comments? The number is 521-7018. If no one is called, 521-7018. We'll go ahead with the vote on the minutes of October the 12th. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very
I'll keep the same list.
Great, thanks, Donna.
Okay.
All right, the next one was on the 20th. I need a motion and a second to approve those minutes.
I so move Burnell.
For now,
Miss Nancy, it's for the 21st, 10/21.
sorry, 21st.
And
My
20
error.
Yeah.
I so move.
Burnell made the motion. Is there a second?
I second it.
That's
Good.
good.
But
That's
yeah,
good.
Thank you. Are there any public comments? The number is 521-7018. If we have no one at 521-7018, we'll go ahead and vote. All those in favor of the minutes from the
Aye.
21st? Aye.
aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. Trish, does that bring us current with the minutes?
Yes, ma'am, that is correct. You just had two to approve this go round, the 10/12 and the 10/21.
Thank you.
Got it.
Is there any old business? If not, we will move to new business. The first item under new business is Mr. Fontaine, who represents Hub International, that handles our self-funded health insurance. Mr. Fontaine, the floor is yours.
All right. Thank you so much. And I hope everybody, like Miss Nancy said, had a beautiful holiday. Crazy year, but if we're in this meeting, we got a lot to be thankful for. That's cool. I'm
Please
gonna,
start. Did everyone get their brochure? I, of course, didn't get mine again, but did everyone get their brochure from Trish?
I did.
I did.
Okay.
Did too.
I did too.
Did anybody not get one? Just me.
We gotta check your mailman, let me tell you.
It's a male lady and she's wonderful. A little slow, but she's wonderful. Okay, go ahead, Lynn. I'm sorry.
Can everyone
right,
see
so-
my screen? Can I interrupt real quick? Everyone
Yes.
can see the screen share?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Well, we
all
don't
right.
see,
I'm,
I'm sorry, we don't see the hub report. We just see your icons.
We see the PDF.
Oh, there it went, but it went away.
okay. Well, if everybody can view it, I'm going to start off with this health plan claim summary on page 1. And obviously this will be reporting through October. If last report was through August, I'll give you some comparisons on that as well. And then I'll give you some preliminary numbers that we have for November. We don't have any reporting, but I do have some preliminary numbers. So as you can see through October, our participation count is at 5695, so we're actually down a bit there. Total claims at the 43,486,248. Our net claims at 38,662,000. Fixed cost at 3,371,000. We've had Humana premiums of a little over $500,000, so total plan cost is at 42,542,000. When we measure this on a per employee per month basis, that comes out to a per employee per month cost of $747 per employee per month. When we measured this at August, we were at a 2.9% increase over 2019. We've dropped to a 1.9 increase over 2019. So obviously moving in the right direction there. Also, our funding is up a bit from when we reported last. That's totaling at 41,312,000 and giving it a net employer cost of the 30,070,867. Our budget loss ratio, cost versus funding, is at 103%, giving us a deficit of 1,230,682. I'm pleased to report to you that that deficit has dropped by about $327,000 since we met last. In August, it was at 1,557,000, and it's dropped to the 1,230,000. So we are moving in the right direction. One other thing I might want to point out while we're on this page here, our 5-year average cost increase right now is running at about 2.5%. You've heard me talk about medical trend cost increases on an annual basis, 6% for the last several years is where that's been. So the plan is certainly outperforming trend. During that time, we've not made any type of real major cost increase or anything like that to employees. So the plan, although we have had some increase in cost, not substantial. When we look at it on a per employee per month basis on page 2 here, you can see that from a total participation standpoint, and looking at some of these bullets down at the bottom, we're really stable as far as participation goes. We've only dropped about 0.6%. And you'll see in some other slides or pages coming forward here that we've actually had a bit of a decrease on the active side, increase on the retiree side. So I'll get into more detail as we go into the more detailed reporting and enrollment statistics. From a medical standpoint, we're almost dead even at 489 versus 490. Prescription drugs are up about 2.4%, which is a very low number because prescription drugs, when I talk about medical having about a 6% inflationary trend number, it's double digit at around 12 to 13% for prescription drugs. The increased rebates, along with the contractual negotiations that we've done, have helped to stabilize that cost, not going up any more than that. From a plan reimbursement standpoint, we're actually down about 14%. Plan reimbursements include the reinsurance reimbursements along with the prescription drug rebates. Some of this is just timing because towards the end of the year, obviously, is when we'll have more reimbursements from a reinsurance standpoint as some of our high cost claimants reach that $500,000 specific reinsurance deductible. And then of course we're due for another rebate on our prescription drugs, which we actually received in November to the tune of over $1.6 million, which I'll share some figures with you on November here shortly. So our net claims figure at 705 is 2.2% higher than it was in 2019. but I'll tell you, it's dropped from 712 since August, and November will have it moving in a positive direction as well. Fixed cost almost equal. Total Blue Cross plan cost up 2.4%. Retiree premium down some 27.8%, which puts our total plan cost at 9% above last year. Remember, once again, we were at 2.9% in August. Funding wise, we were at 720 in August. We jumped to 725. That's just demographics there and updated reporting. So our net employer cost at 528, budget loss ratio at 103, and the deficit at $22 per employee per month. That was at 34 in August. So once again, moving in the right direction. When we look at this on a month-by-month basis, you can see that August obviously was our high cost month at $5.5 million, almost $5.6 million in net claims, a total plan cost of almost $6 million, and a deficit that month of $1,886,000. September was a surplus month at about $541,000. October being very close to breaking even. November's fund, we had that $1.6 million rebate in that particular month. So November is going to actually bring our costs down some more. And I'll tell you, we're looking at about a $727 per employee per month cost. That's bringing that 747 that we're currently at down to about 727. So also by the end of November, our deficit should fall under $1 million at or around 770,000 with that rebate coming in November. So we're moving in the right direction. Depending on how December does, we will be in much better shape than where we were with that high cost month in August. So things are normalizing for us, but plan costs, excuse me, versus funding, excuse me, still very tight. From an enrollment standpoint on page 7, the other pages behind were just historical pages that we always want to include in case you would like to make some comparison when looking at how the plan's running now versus the 18 and 17 reporting years. When we look at enrollment on page 7, once again, just a slight decrease of about 0.6%. Our employee only enrollment has decreased about 0.8%, where employee with dependent only a 0.2. Nothing really staggering there. We always talk about the industry throughout Lafayette and some of that all field industry impact not really showing up as of yet, and that membership is not really outpacing enrollment in any big way, nor are we seeing a huge influx of spousal claims. Spousal claims are actually a little bit higher than our active claims are right now, but nothing significant there. On page 8, this is pretty repetitive from the last reporting. Our enhanced plan participation from prior years up almost 4% at 3.7%. Basic is actually down almost the same amount at 3.6%. And Blue Saver, pleased to tell you, up about 6.4%. We talk about membership versus participation, membership being the number of bodies in the plan, participation being the number of employees and retirees. So our enrollment down 0.6%, our membership actually stable at the exact same number, average-wise, of 9,826 members or bodies in the plan. On page 10, you'll see on the bullet, our spousal claims are about 4% higher, 2% on a 3-year average. Don't be alarmed that this is not anything that's a result of demographic change. This is just due to some of our higher cost claimants being spouses. So this is not anything that's trending up. It's just statistics of a high cost claimant in our spousal membership. On page 11, when we look at just medical claims, they're stable, decreasing about 0.2%. But I want to point out to you, especially the bottom bullet, claims over 100,000 this year, and this is measuring the same period of time. It's not measuring the full year versus 9 months, 10 months of this year. It's the exact same time period, January 1st through October 31st of both years. This year, we've had 37 members with charges over $100,000, totaling $8,146,000. Last year, same period of time, 33, but totaling only $5,721,000, and that difference, $2,424,000. So basically, what it's telling us, we've had a higher cost year in high cost claimants, but we've had some lower utilization in other areas that has helped us out. From a prescription drug standpoint, very stable at a 2.4% increase. Most of our cases, especially school systems, are seeing double-digit increases here. Some of this, or almost all of it, has to do with the contractual discounts and increased rebates. Actually, your high-cost medications increased 8.6%. So it's those discounts and rebates that are definitely offsetting the cost there. So if we, on page 13, look at both medical and prescription drugs together, our total claims remain stable, increasing less than 1%. Net of plan reimbursements increased about 2.2 because we have not gotten as much back in claims over that $500,000 mark. When comparing the performance of the three Blue Cross plans, you'll see that basically our claims cost on the enhanced plan came down about 7%. Basic went up about 5.6. Blue Saver remained stable. So if you look at the bullets on the bottom of this page, the enhanced plan currently has 15% of your participation, but almost 20% of your claims. So it's not really supporting itself presently. Basic plan, 63.6% of participation, 69% of claims. So a little better, but still not supporting itself. And then of course, that's being offset by Blue Saver, which is 21% of the participation, but only 11% of the claims. So the Blue Saver is supporting the basic and enhanced plans. And of course, enhanced has actually come down from a cost standpoint. So once again, from a total plan cost standpoint, and that includes fixed costs plus claims, less any reimbursements to the plan, we were up about 3.3% as of the end of August. We're at 1.9%. The next couple of pages are going to be some new pages into the report, which you requested at the last meeting. We wanted to have a comparison of data from a participation and claims and funding standpoint, actives and retirees separated and looked at on an individual basis and compared. So you'll see that on the first page, when we talk about the participation, our active participations actually decreased over the last couple of years, while retiree participation has increased. 3.1% decrease on the active participation, almost 5% increase on the retiree. So, and that's just gradual year over year. While at the same time on the medical claims, you'll see that currently active support a little over 2/3 of the medical claims at 67.5 versus 32.5 for retirees. And that's kind of varied over the years, but it's increasing on the active, and it's come from 61 to 65 to 67. On the prescription drug claims, almost the opposite here, okay? In that the retirees are at 58%, 57.9 versus 42.1 as far as our prescription drug claims go. So when we talk about total claims on page 19, retirees support 42.2% of the total claims, and of course active at 57.8. And if you remember, this compares almost to the percentage, to the 1/10 of a percentage. It compares right where we are from a participation standpoint. So retirees are about 42% of the participation, 42% of the claims. So that's exactly where you would want it to be. Same thing with the actives, 58% of the participation, 58% of total claims. So right where you would want it to be. And actually the same thing on funding at the 58 and 42. So we can't really say that retirees and actives are supporting each other. They're right where they need to be from a funding perspective, because it's right matching with the participation at 58 and 42 for participation, 58 and 42 on claims, 58 and 42 on funding. So that's looking very good as far as that reporting goes. When we go to page 21, claims by type of service, you'll see that the real increase here is on an inpatient basis. So those large claimants that I just alluded to a couple of pages back, these are from high cost inpatient stays. And you're going to see on page 22, we have couple of very high cost injuries. And actually, albeit we had a fair amount of circulatory claims, that's actually come down. But the cancer claims have come up significantly, with neoplasm averaging $19 per employee per month. It's almost doubled last year at 11. I'll also point out that your musculoskeletal, which has been either number 1 or number 2 for several years, has dropped down to number 4. And remember that we did put the Regenexx plan in. I'm sure that has a bit of impact there, but also we've had a bit of luck with that as well. On an outpatient basis, factors influencing health has jumped to number 1, and reason being, that's where your chemotherapy is, your maintenance chemotherapy. So that's jumped to number 1. So you can see cancer is predominant, especially in outpatient, and that it's the chemo being number 1, neoplasm being number 2. And then I'll point out to you that circulatory has dropped from 29 down to the 18, and musculoskeletal is actually equal on an outpatient basis. Top facilities, Lafayette General remaining number 1, but you can see we've dropped from $111 per employee per month to the 98, so that's come down. Our Lady of Lourdes has actually come up from 77 to 97. The fifth one, I know you're probably not familiar. That was just a high cost claimant. That claims actually from Delaware. Prescription drug claims by number of scripts, still averaging that 87% generic utilization, very, very high for a school system, so that's favorable. Due to high cost medications, your generics went from 16% of the total money down to 13%. So remember how impactful these rebates are. So if you see that kind of percentage differential and our high cost meds increasing, but we only have a 2.4% increase on our cost, you'll know how much the rebates are worth. And then if we were to measure that through November with that rebate being paid in November, I would think that the 2.4% increase in prescription drugs has actually come down. From a utilization standpoint, we're right about the same. We've dropped to the 2.8 scripts per employee per month in 19, and are staying stable there. On our top 10 drugs by number of prescriptions, exactly what we would want them to be. I'm pleased to point out that I see a lot of utilization in attention deficit disorder and many of the other sleep meds and or emotional or mental disorder meds. We're not seeing overutilization or anything like that in your reporting here. Also, if you'll notice, hydrocodones dropped from the middle of the pack down to the bottom. That's very positive. Actually, about a 14.3% decrease on the hydrocodone year over year. So that's good news to the plan as well. Not necessarily from a cost standpoint because it isn't expensive, but from all of the other obvious measurements, it's good to see a drop there. When we talk about our top 10 drugs by dollar amount, this is 2% of your prescriptions, but almost 30% of our dollars, claims dollars. So 2% of our prescriptions are driving almost a third of the claims dollars here. These 10 medications. I can tell you that one of the reasons it increased slightly is this cancer med, that the third one from the bottom is a new med to the top 10. Actually, our Humira's down a spec. The blood thinners of the Eliquis are up a bit. And you're going to see more increased utilization on that. And then, of course, this year we don't have the Duplexant that we had in the past or last year. So just a slight change in those numbers. I will tell you that the rebate that we received in November is substantially higher than we've had in the past, and that's due to some of this high-cost medication. That $1.6 million was probably a good $300,000-400,000 higher than our previous rebates, and of course, the rebates that we negotiated for 2021 are even higher. So that's all moving in a good direction. We're still almost at 70% on our PPO savings here. The major reason that we remain with Blue Cross today is that network, that percentage discount off of bill charges, as well as the vast amount of doctors and hospitals. And then at the same time on page 31, when we can show a report that 98% of all of the claims are in network, that means employees have a real good choice of network providers, and we're almost at 70% with our 69% discount. Cost breakdown on page 32 tells us that we're basically running our plan for 8 cents on a dollar. We've talked about it and the question's been asked in the past, why are we self-funded? One of the reasons is because it allows you flexibility in your plan and more reporting and more plan management. But at the same time, we're not paying 10, 15 cents on a dollar to run this plan. Our administration from Blue Cross is at 6.2. Our reinsurance costing us less than 2% at 1.8. Provides for a total fixed cost of 8% or 8 cents on a plan cost dollar. And we want to direct the majority of our dollars, obviously, to claims. So plan cost net of employee contributions, the increase was almost 5% at the end of August, and that's dropped to 2.9%. And then, of course, with November being favorable, that's going to be good for us as well. On page 34, you can see that with the exception of the claims over 100,000, everything this year is really come down a bit, especially those claims from the $5,000 to $10,000 range, $20,000 to $50,000 range. We even had a drop in $50,000 to $100,000 claims. It's these high cost claims that has kept our cost up, and actually the increase on the medical. So from a summary standpoint, the considerations are always on the last page here if you ever want to refer to those. But as far as the cost of the plan goes, we've moved in a positive direction since August. We've actually decreased that deficit by about $327,000. And then November will probably bring us at a cost at or around the 2019 cost and bring that deficit more than cut it in half. Now, of course, December we'll be looking at December. We'll not have any type of prescription drug rebate, but we do have some reinsurance reimbursements, not anywhere to the tune of 1.6 million, but to offset some costs. So we'll be monitoring the plan real closely, but hopefully by the end of the year, we'll be looking at a lower deficit amount, and the changes that we've made here recently are going to give us the cost savings we need to bring back that surplus, break even and surplus into the plan.
Any questions for Mr. Fontaine? If not, Lynn, I have a couple of things first for you and Trish, just for next year's consideration. The active employees, Ms. Reed spoke to the board and indicated that they were appreciative of the fact that the changes, the premium increase was done during open enrollment so they could make a more informed decision. It, I believe, extended open enrollment this year by a week, but if that can be done again to help the actives, I think it's something certainly that we ought to consider. And I appreciate you're showing the active and retiree comparison. I don't think we need to do that every quarter, but I appreciate you're doing it, if we can, the quarter prior to open enrollment, because it makes a difference in our membership. Our membership on the committee is based on the percentage of retirees that's gone up from 40 to 42%, and actives, which has gone down from 60 to 58%. So Trish has those numbers too. So if you can't do it the month before, that's not a problem. The other thing, if Billy or Trish or Lynn, I spoke with Butch, and in past years, they have not wanted our fund balance to get below close to $5 million. So if whoever is responsible would make sure if we ever get below $5 million again, that the committee would be informed as soon as that happens, so we can make the necessary changes. Another comment, one of our members asked the question, and Trish got the response for us, about the percentage that we pay actives and retirees and the percentage that the school board pays of our insurance. And I believe it's the 87 tax, is that right, Trish? Does anybody know the year of the tax?
I'm not sure of the year. Matt may know it better than I do.
Is it 88? Okay.
Yes.
The 88 tax that voters approved provides for funding for insurance for retirees and actives, but it also provides funding for many other things as well. But the data that Trish got shows that actives and retirees pay about 30% of our insurance cost, and the board pays 69.9 or 70% of those costs. I believe that's correct, Matt.
That's in line with the reporting on page 33.
Right. So just in case anyone else had that question. Anyone else have any questions?
The 87 tax is disclosed in the CAFR, and it pays 1/2 of the employee-only premium, is basically how it's set up in the structure. And so basically absorbs, there's 6 priorities, I believe that's the 4th priority, and it absorbs everything, so we don't ever get to the 5th or 6th priority.
Right. Thank you.
Miss Nancy, I have a question that I'm not sure is good for now or for later when we specifically discuss the Regenexx issue, because I saw that that's later on the agenda. Is that a question for Mr. Fontaine or for Miss Trish?
It's for Trish, and because of your experience, she has included it on her agenda.
Okay, excellent, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon, for finding that out for us.
Miss Nancy.
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. I was about to say good morning. Let's not repeat the day. The budget. So just remember when we report the budget, it's going to be that unaudited budget, like in October when we looked at the balance last time. Maybe Matt can explain, or Billy, I don't know if Billy's on, can explain a little bit more that we're looking at that budget. Remember, it can be adjusted once that audit goes through.
Exactly. Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions about health insurance before we move on to life insurance?
Nancy, it's Vicki. I have a question.
Yes, Vicki.
Do we know how many employees or retirees that we lost because of the increase?
Because of the increase in the cost of insurance?
Yes, ma'am. The 1.3, the one that we extended the enrollment,
right,
so that people could, if they choose to drop it. Do we know how many people we lost?
I don't know that any of us have an idea. Trish and Lynn can comment. I don't know how we would determine if people left for that reason, or if they got into another policy or went onto their husband's policy. Our costs have not, the decision we made has not been implemented yet. I think what the interest was from Ms. Reed was that it helped people make a decision between basic and enhanced and Blue Saver in terms of what the dollar cost would be. But I know Lynn said our participation had decreased by a small amount, but I don't think any of us has information as to whether that was caused by the coming increase in insurance. I don't know how to answer your question.
And Miss Nancy, Miss Trish did get quite a few people who called and switched plans based. So it was a great thing to do, to extend to all our people to be able to make those changes. So it really was a huge thing, and some people did make those changes.
Right. But the question was, did anybody just get off the plan because they couldn't afford it? And I don't think we know that happened. but hopefully next year, I know it increases by a week, open enrollment, but I hope you all will consider doing that again, because I think it really helped some of our participants.
I think that a lot of people are dropping out simply because they're moving to Texas or elsewhere. The economy here is just not good. In the oil patch, it's horrible. I mean, you go down 190 out there going to New Iberia, there's nothing but empty buildings. So that's probably what happens as far as having that much of a drop. But you know, until this economy picks up here in Louisiana, I think we're going to probably see some further drops.
Yeah, I hope you're wrong, but I'm afraid you may not be, Butch. All right, anything else about health insurance we need to talk about before we go on to life insurance? If not, the agenda item 7.2, discussion and or action regarding the basic supplemental and AD&D life insurance benefit as requested by the Lafayette Parish School Board. Let me tell you what happened. As you all know, we met September 1st in an emergency meeting to discuss life insurance. And we had extensive conversations. A lot of concerns were aired. And we told Mr. Pennington if he had additional information to come back to us, because we were just looking at US Able, frankly. He had not given us anything else to compare that to. I never got a request from Mr. Pennington to come back to this committee. However, it was somehow brought to the attention of Mr. Chasson, Dr. Chasson rather, on the school board. The school board discussed it and they deferred it to us again. So that is why it is back before us. I had several texts and a couple of emails from you saying, why are we doing this again? So that is why. So I will turn it over to Mr. Pennington.
Thank you, Miss Nancy. Just to echo Lynn and Miss Nancy, as she got started, I hope you guys did have an excellent Thanksgiving. I sure did, and it's good to be back with you guys tonight. As Nancy just explained, this was brought back up at your last board meeting, and I was asked to do really one thing. I was asked to go back and see if Unum, who is your current carrier for your basic life, which the school board pays for, and your supplemental life, I was asked by the board to go back and see if they would match the US Able quote. Shortly after that, I visited with Trish, and we both decided, really based on the feedback that we got from this committee. As a reminder, I had actually sent this out to 3 different carriers. It was not only US Able, but also One America and Lincoln, and they both declined to quote. So Trish and I decided that I would go back out to an additional 3 carriers and also ask Unum if they would match the what US Able had brought to the table. So what you'll see here, and what I try to do is keep this as simple as possible, because I want to get you guys the information that you need to make the best decision that you can. So if you'll see here along the top, those are all of the carriers or insurance companies that I've spoken to, that I reached out to. So Unum is the current. US Able was the one responder that did offer savings back at the beginning of September. And then One American Lincoln refused to quote or declined to quote. And then I also reached out to Aflac, Reliant Standard, and MetLife. Aflac and Reliant Standard both also declined to quote based on the retiree risk or the retiree block. And then MetLife, they basically had an issue internally where they got confused of who in their organization the quote request needed to go through. So they were unable to meet the timeline that we had given all of the carriers. So basically from this point forward, because no one else sent us a quote, we can focus on Unum and US Able. What I hope through this is that I've been able to solve some things that will hopefully make your decision a little bit easier. I'm not going to get into the details of this because I went through it the last time unless you have questions, but really where I'm going to focus is on that Unum column and the US Able column. And what I've done is I've greened the areas that really where you need to be focused. The first thing that I will point out is that the savings that US Able offered, so for the employee paid basic life insurance, which is a $10,000 policy for actives and $5,000 for retirees, US Able had offered $1.16 per employee and then $1.22 per retiree. Unum was able to match that quote. So as I go through this, what you're going to find is that Unum matched the amount, the premium amount that US Able did. Really, there's only two places that Unum did not match US Able, and that's really where you need to focus tonight. Guaranteed issue. US Able, as you may remember back from the 1st of September meeting, US Able agreed to offer all active employees guaranteed issue for 2021, for this year. Unum would not do that. And I went back to them and they would not guarantee me that I could get guaranteed issue for active employees even for 2022. They basically said that I'd have to bring it back before them and they'd have to go back to their underwriters to see if they could do that. So what that leaves us is that right now, as it stands, Unum would allow your new hires a guaranteed issue life insurance, but they would not offer your existing employees. Currently, and I don't have the exact number, Trish may have this, but there's somewhere around 600 active employees, I believe, that are currently participating in that supplemental life insurance. So that gives us a lot of opportunities, roughly 3,500 employees that are not participating in that policy. It's a low cost policy. During these times, the guaranteed issue piece might be important. Moving on down through this, the rate guarantee is the only other place where Unum did not want to match. So if you'll remember back to the September 1st meeting, US Able was going to give us a 3-year rate guarantee, which would take us through the end of 2023. What I was able to do with Unum was that they did extend their rate guarantee. So it was only for 1 more year. So it was going to go through the end of 2021, and then we wouldn't have it any further. So with this, they did agree to give us 1 additional year. So they're willing to go to the end of 2022, where US Able is willing to go through 2023. So if you'll see down at the bottom, the cost savings are going to be the exact same. And this is all based on the numbers I got from Trish. I guess it was just before Thanksgiving, of the current actives and retirees. And that's how we figured the savings. As you know, that number the savings and that amount will change based on the census numbers. So you see here, regardless, if now the great thing about this is that the school board is going to get the savings regardless if you move to US Able or not. So really the decision that you have to make tonight is, one, is guaranteed issue important to you for your active employees? US Able is willing to give it to us, and Unum is not right now. And the second thing that you have to consider is that additional year rate guarantee important enough to make the switch? So you got 2 more years with Unum. You'll have an additional year to make a total of 3 years if you move to US Able. So really, again, you have to consider the guaranteed issue piece and then the 1-year rate guarantee. And that's really the only decision that you guys have to make tonight, because Unum did match the rate that US Able had offered.
Questions for Mr. Pennington? I'll start, Shane.
Okay.
First of all, I have an email here from Ms. Gardner. It says Unum chose not to offer a guaranteed issue and US Able did. That's not exactly correct. Unum is offering a guaranteed issue for new hires, are they not?
That's standard, yes. And they've been doing that for new hires, yes.
And isn't that standard in the industry that year one?
Year one, that is correct. That is correct. So the big difference there is that you only have 600 people that are participating. You have 3,500 who could benefit from a guaranteed issue offer now.
The other thing, you mentioned the September meeting, and I have to tell you, I'm a bit perplexed because I went back and watched that September meeting, and I think 3 or 4 people on this committee asked to be sure that if you did come back, you came back with 4 to 6 bids that we could consider. Tonight we have 2. The fact that somebody doesn't bid doesn't help us compare apples to apples. So we basically only have 2 bids. And I think you said at that time that your job was to bring us options.
Yes.
And I'm concerned that we, again, just have 2 options.
Yeah.
The other concern is the spreadsheet says that you contacted 7 companies. Really, Lincoln and One America, you had contacted in August. They were not listed, did not send emails, and were not contacted a second time, as I understand it. Is that right?
That's correct.
So we really only we're back to the current carrier, Unum, and US Able.
Yes, ma'am.
I had asked on behalf of a couple of committee members to have the other bidders on this Zoom call, mainly so we could learn more. Trish replied that you were not going to invite them, and then Jennifer wrote that she had decided that it wasn't common practice, so they wouldn't be invited. But Unum is our current carrier. Is it common practice for us not to be able to talk to our own carrier that we're paying? So
as your broker, my job is to represent Unum as your carrier. To address the number of other carriers or the other bids that I brought to you, I guess my question to you would be, do you see a trend here? As I mentioned to you, this was going to be a tough case to sell because we have your retirees included in this. So when you have the 5 additional who are top nationwide carriers who are not willing to quote, I just would ask that you would take that into consideration. And really, I mean, if I go any further out, I'm not working with anyone that we have experience with. We may have to get into some of those lower rated carriers that may be a B carrier. Most all of these guys are going to be A minus carriers. So really, when you say that I didn't bring you any more options, there are 5 others that I went to, and they just weren't willing to quote on it.
Well, there are a lot of A-rated and A- rated under AM Best. There are a lot of life insurance carriers that are rated well, but there's kind of a credibility problem, Shane, because you told us back in September that you were concerned Unum would not bid when our contract ended. You said if they did bid, it would be an astronomical increase. You said if we didn't act by September 1st, the day of that meeting, Unum could come back with a huge increase. You told us that US Able would not hold their bid. So none of that has proven to be the case.
And that's not actually what I said. What I said was my concern was I couldn't guarantee you that they would. That was my statement, was that I could not, and I think I said it 2 or 3 times, that I could not guarantee you that Unum would not come with an astronomical increase. I couldn't guarantee you that US Able, their option would stand, and I couldn't guarantee you that I could find anyone else who would be willing to quote on this.
Nancy, this is Carol Broussard. Can I make a comment, please?
Sure.
I know, Shane, in September, I sat here and I listened to you, and I said, he must be working for US Able, because you were a salesman that day. So for you to tell me that Unum was not invited, credibility from me, and I've been on this insurance committee a long, long time. We would have had these people come before us and present their proposal. You're saying you're the agent, but in September, you were a US Able salesperson.
So if you will remember, and thank you, Ms. Broussard, for commenting. If you'll remember, one of the reasons at the time that I did not go back to Unum was because we had had service administrative issues, and it had caused more work, not only on myself, but also on your internal insurance department. We had some major issues that took us several months to work through. So at that time, that's why I didn't bring them in. My only option to you, as Nancy just shared, was US Able. They were the only ones at the time, and really they're still the only ones that are willing to bring a new quote to you guys. So what I was selling to you actually wouldn't be anything different that I was selling to you tonight. I'm sharing with you, I'm not selling you, I'm sharing with you the differences. Back then, it was that they were going to save the school board 18%. It was that they were going to give you a 3-year rate guarantee, and it was that they were going to give your active employees guaranteed issue. None of that has changed. The only thing that's changed is that because the board asked me to, I did go back to Unum. They're matching the rate, but they're not matching these other items. So you guys really, you have to make a decision how critical those two things are. Do you want your active employees to have the guaranteed issue?
I have a question, Nancy. And I'm flabbergasted because, you know, when we met in September, Shane told us that it was unlikely that Unum would even come with a quote. So now again, I'm hearing, you know, I'm saying I would rather hear from these people than hear from Shane. I'm just being honest. That's my opinion. Because he's saying the same thing he said in September. It's nothing different.
The only thing different is that Unum has matched those rates.
Now, when is the contract up?
So Unum was originally, you had a rate guarantee, and that's how those work, Mr. Burnell. You had a rate guarantee through the end of next year, so through the end of 2021. Now that I have gotten Unum to extend that to the end of 22, you could look at it that if you wanted to stay, we can stay with Unum. You're going to have the reduced rate to the school board. Everything else would stay the same, and you'd have it through the end of 22.
Nancy, I have a comment.
Question was, I think that time, well, I think after the fact was, why are we looking at that when it's at the end of 21?
Right. And if you remember, I'm sorry, Mr. Burnell.
Go ahead. I'm done.
Okay. And again, remember, my challenge was that we had some administrative issues. So I put it out there to US Able, One America, and Lincoln at the time. US Able was able to give an 18% decrease. I brought that back to Trish, back to the insurance. I'm pretty sure she took that to Ms. Gardner and Ms. Trosclair and others and said, hey, do we want to take this to the committee? It's 18% savings to the school board. So that's where the decision was made to even bring it to you guys.
Nancy, I have a question.
Yes, Katie, thank you.
Shane, I guess my concern with the credibility is that we've met many, many times, and every time we ask staff, have there been any issues with any of our contracts or any of our vendors? And the answer has always been no. And then all of a sudden, we have these major issues, administrative issues with Unum. I think that's why the committee is so perplexed. This is exactly what happened with First Financial. We were told nothing, and then all of a sudden there were these supposedly horrendous problems. And now we're facing Unum supposedly giving us administrative problems. Can I ask what those were and why was not the committee informed?
Yeah, so these date back to January of 2019, the first month that we took over the account. I talked through this back in September. We had found that they, based on the decision that this committee made, and that was, I guess, later voted on by the school board, there was a piece that was, I don't want to call it slipped in. I just don't think that it was discussed. And that was that they were planning to terminate all of the retiree supplemental life. And when I found that, I think it was like the 15th, 16th, 17th of January, and it was going to terminate the end of January. So at that time, I brought that to the attention of the insurance department, and I went to work to have that turned around, and we were able to do that. It took a lot of work. As far as the things that are not brought to you guys as a committee, I always leave that up to the insurance department. And as you guys know, you have different leadership there now than you did before. But there was a decision made that we worked through it. It was fixed. There was no reason for them to bring that to you, I think. And Trish may want to speak to that because obviously I didn't make that decision. That decision was made internally.
This is Trish.
Okay, Trish.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct. I mean, we've got documentation. It dates back. I can corroborate exactly what Shane spoke of. We did have issues. It took a long time to work through it. He went back and forth to Unum to work through those issues, and we finally got them resolved. And then we had another hiccup about mid-year of that year. So it has been a struggle. We did have administrative issues, and it was not brought to the insurance committee because it was worked through in the department.
Well, even if it was worked through, that's why we put the contract issue on the agenda after First Financial, was even if it was worked through, if there's a problem, it needs to be brought to the committee.
Ms. Nancy, can I just make one more statement? It was not EBI that wouldn't allow the carriers on the call. So I just want to make sure that that's clear. It was not EBI making that request.
I got an email from you saying Shane was not going to invite them.
No, ma'am, it didn't say Shane. I believe it was inferred based on the email, but it did not say EBI either. It just said that the carriers would not be allowed.
My mistake. I thought it said Shane said they weren't going to be invited, but I'll go back and look at the email. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you.
Shane, the other question I have is that I read somewhere, I think in the attachments that Trish sent, there was an attachment that was entitled, let me find it, something about insurance carriers that didn't bid. Is that close, Trish?
It's probably multiple emails of all the carriers that declined to quote.
Right. And interestingly enough, that's where I found the Unum bid, and they are making a proposal. And what they said was, had they been allowed to bid on short and long-term disability, their insurance rates would be lowered, but they were not allowed to bid on short and long-term disability. Why weren't they? If it would lower our insurance costs even more.
So basically that's a timing thing for me to do that close to open enrollment. And that was not a request to them until now, when they see that there's a possibility that they could lose the life insurance. I can tell you that all of the carriers, all of those that are listed across the top, they would all likely, I'm not going to say that they would, but they would all likely be interested in looking at this if they could have the whole block, if they could have all the short-term, long-term, and both of the life insurance plans. So as we mentioned on the September call, if that's something that you guys want me to do in the spring, as we're getting ready for our renewal for next year, if you want me to put that out as a block and see if we can drive down those rates any further, I'm willing to do that. It was a timing thing, and that was something that he just asked when he realized that there was the possibility that he could potentially lose the life insurance. But I appreciate you asking that, Ms. Nancy.
But it wasn't pointed out to us anyway. Really, I found it quite by accident, and I was surprised to read that we could have had even lower life insurance rates if they had done the disability.
And understand though, again, that's how they all are. All of those carriers would be willing to look at that, and they would say that they could potentially drive it down further if they had all of that business.
What other carriers? We don't have anybody else bidding.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Every one of those across the top, they sell disability insurance as well. If I gave them an opportunity to win the disability and the life insurance, they may come to the table with other options.
That would be lower and more cost effective.
Potentially, you don't know until they send in a quote.
The other issue that was discussed at length when I went over that September meeting, the other issue was it may have been Shannon that raised about re-enrollment in January, given all of the chaos. And I think Hannah raised it as well.
Yeah.
All the chaos. Would both Unum and US Able require re-enrollment?
No, they would not. And I appreciate you bringing that up as well, because Trish and I have spoken about that. If you stick with Unum, we don't have to do anything. It's just going to stay as is. The school board will get the savings. Roughly the average is right at 18% savings on the basic life. So what the school board pays, everything else is going to stay the same. If you decide to move to US Able, then we would have to do a special enrollment. I don't have to do that before the first of the year. I can do that. We could make that a February 1st. Actually, we could make it effective anytime that you wanted to. Trish and I talked about, if you guys decided to move it to US Able, that we would probably target an early January enrollment and make it effective in February.
Well, I think it was Shannon who raised that question.
Yeah.
And she may have another question, but my concern is that was certainly in September considered advantageous to employees, active employees, that they would not have to have any re-enrollment. And yet when I look at the spreadsheet under Unum, the fact that it would not require any enrollment is not even disclosed there, which is a concern to me. Shannon, I think it was you who was concerned about re-enrollment.
It was, and how soon will we be able to get that information about re-enrollment?
Yeah, so you're talking about, Shannon, are you talking about for any special enrollment just for the life insurance?
Yes, so if we switch, because right now we have Unum, and if we switch to US Able, since we don't know, we can't tell our members that, you won't have to re-enroll.
Yeah. So
how soon can we get that information for them? Because I think it's especially important. I mean, we're in the middle of a major pandemic.
For sure.
And so to give people something that they have to do to maintain their life insurance, I find that problematic right now at this juncture.
Yeah, for sure. And I totally hear what you're saying. If just a couple of things, obviously, if we would have made the decision before open enrollment, our goal was to enroll during open enrollment. It would have been a part of what you guys have already completed. What our goal would be, and one of the reasons that Trish and I kind of looked at February 1st, is that would give our marketing team to build all of the marketing pieces that we would need to send out to you guys. It would give us an opportunity to work with Trish and her team on communications. That's always extremely critical during any type of enrollment. So that's why we said February 1st. Our goal would be, to answer your question, my goal would be that if you were going to make the move, is that we would have all of our marketing materials out before Christmas.
Shane.
Did that answer your question, Shannon?
I think mostly I'm just concerned. I am not super comfortable with the idea that people could lose their life insurance coverage in the middle of a pandemic. And it does not feel to me like we can ensure that if we make this switch right now.
So are you talking about, you're talking about employees? No employee would lose their coverage, even in a switch, because basically, you may remember, I think it may have been Ms. Mason that asked if we could do a census enrollment. I can do a census enrollment where I take all of your current participants, those 600 or so current participants, and just move them straight into the US Able plan. So to make sure that they didn't lose their coverage. I can enroll them in the exact same coverage that they have today, because those rates are not different. The thing about that is that me bringing this before you guys, my goal was to give everyone an opportunity to get that guaranteed issue piece because you have so little participation right now in it. That was my goal. And
that answers my question. Thank you.
And I totally understand what you're saying. We are at a terrible time now. I think that it's a challenge. It's a bigger challenge for us to do this now. Not that you guys are going to ask me for my recommendation, but I can tell you that this will be a much bigger challenge now if you decided to move, simply because we would have to put together a special enrollment. We just have to decide, you guys have to decide what's more, because I'm going to go to work, Trisha's going to go to work, and we're going to get it done. If you say switch, you just have to make the decision, is the guaranteed issue piece important to you? And is the additional 1 year?
Wait, so would everybody be automatically enrolled if we switched or not?
Yes, the people who are currently in there could be automatically enrolled, yes.
Would they have to opt into that, or would they definitely be?
Anybody that's currently in the plan would automatically be enrolled. There's absolutely no way that they would lose that coverage.
So the market.
What about, I'm sorry,
the 3,500 other people you spoke of would have to be enrolled, wouldn't they?
They would enroll, yes.
Right.
So
And that's my concern, because this was such a huge issue for our actives in September. It was disturbing to me that it did not appear at all on the comparison supposed spreadsheet that we got.
I'm sorry that concerns you that much, Ms. Mounts, that I didn't put that one would have to be enrolled and the other wouldn't. I'm sorry that I didn't put that on the comparison.
Well, it's important to the active employees.
This is Trish.
Question.
Okay.
Just a quick question. Those retirees that have supplemental life insurance, would they automatically be enrolled, or would they have to re-enroll with the new company?
They would automatically be enrolled.
What about other retirees who might want to get supplemental?
They would not be offered the opportunity.
Right. And what about active employees who are currently on leave, whether maternity leave or whatever, sick leave?
Yeah, they would have the opportunity. They'd have 30 days after they return to work to enroll with the guaranteed issue.
But I'm not talking about they would just, and if we stayed with Unum, they would just keep the insurance they have, correct?
That's correct. Yes, that's correct. So anybody, just to let you guys know, for open enrollment period, if anybody's out on leave, whenever they come back, they let Trish know that they're back, and then they have 30 days to enroll, to basically do their open enrollment at that time.
I think, Shane, what Ms. Nancy, correct me if I'm wrong. Let's say that I'm on leave because I'm being treated for cancer and I already have a Unum life insurance policy. Mine, even though I'm on leave, would automatically be transferred to USAble with no stop in coverage because I already had it before I went on leave.
That's correct.
If I'm if I'm on leave because I'm receiving chemotherapy or I have cancer, then I'm eligible to enroll within the 30 days that I come back from leave.
That is correct. And I'm sorry that I misunderstood that.
No,
yes.
and I'm not sure I got Ms. Nancy's question right. That's just how I was interpreting it.
You did. Thank you very much. One more thing, or a couple more things. We discussed in September payroll deduction. I think that all retirees want to stay on payroll deduction, whatever company we go with. It's a lot less trouble for them than writing out checks. I don't know how the other retirees on the committee feel, but I don't think we'd want to do away with our payroll deduction. I don't happen to have the life insurance, but those of you who do might want to comment on that.
The only thing that I would say there, Ms. Nancy, is that that was a request from, I believe that was from Trish and her team, primarily. I think it was Candy, right, Trish? If we could do that, that it would make it much easier to keep up with, because there's just a lot that happens as far as, and Trish, you may have to speak to this, but as far as death, there's just so many different things that I believe Candy was having some challenges with keeping up with coming back to work full-time, that kind of thing. So that was a way that we could reduce that that challenge. But if you guys don't want to do that, then you can vote to say that we wouldn't do that. Correct, Trish? Is that right?
We do have the option of making them ACH, so we wouldn't require them to write a check every single month, and we would work through the process with them. It was an option, and Shane emphasized it just due to the changes that happen with death or a retiree coming through, or any type of changes with regard to pension. But we can certainly work through anything.
So do you want a specific vote on whether or not retirees keep payroll deduction? Did I understand that correctly?
I don't think we have to have that. I don't think we have to have that as a vote. I think that
is there any retiree who does not want to keep payroll deduction? I didn't think so.
You're referring to the pension, right, Miss Nancy?
Yes. Shane, something else you mentioned in September, and I don't remember the details, but it was a spousal benefit or something. One was $25,000 and another was $30,000. And that wasn't on this comparison sheet either. I looked.
Yeah, if you'll notice here on the guaranteed issue part under the US Able piece, that was that the spouse is eligible for 30,000 guaranteed issue, children 10,000, all active employees 200,000. I think that's probably what you're referring to.
It is. Where was Unum offering, or is Unum offering anything for spouses?
Yes, it's the same guaranteed issue piece, but it's only during that initial year during new hire.
Right. So that also wasn't on the comparison sheet, was it? Under Unum didn't show anything for spousal. It just said new hire.
It's your current plan. It's your current plan.
Right, but we don't have a current plan in front of us, and that made this more difficult. We had the very professional plan from you, and all we had from Unum was about 8 or 10 lines in an email.
And that was not an attempt to keep any information from you. It was just basically showing that that's the existing plan.
Right, which is what I would have expected to see the Unum benefits on that spreadsheet, that since I didn't have a proposal. Anybody have any more questions for Shane?
I have a question, Nancy. Shane, are you a broker or are you a third-party administrator?
Broker.
You're a broker?
Yes, ma'am.
What's the difference?
So TPAs, typically, they have some type of interest, like for example, your flexible spending accounts. You have that run through a TPA, so they could be handling funds. I'm not handling any of those funds. So my job as a broker is simply to work on your behalf to find the best benefits at the best rates for the school board. It's basically the same thing that Lynn is trying to do for your health insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Is there a motion?
Okay, I have a question. I hate to ask this question.
Sure, Donna.
I guess maybe because I didn't come in this way in the beginning, our discussion for today, what we're deciding, what I'm gathering is, you have Unum and you have what the US Able. Mm-hmm. Already with Unum, you wanting to give the employees another choice? Is that what this is?
No,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Ms. Broussard, this would be a change, so you wouldn't have two different options. This would be US Able, excuse me, replacing the Unum coverage.
So why is that up at this point now? I guess that's my question.
Because US Able brought a better option that could save the school board money and could offer the active employees.
But Unum matched what they did except that 1 year, right?
That's correct.
Except for the one.
That's correct.
Okay, I was on silent, so I couldn't ask my question, which I go back to if Unum and then the contract is till the end of 21. Are they letting you out of that contract, or what are the ramifications of getting?
Yeah, so the way that this works is both of those plans are post-tax benefits. So if your employees wanted to get out of that at any time, they would be able to get out of that plan. They don't run like, I know what you're thinking about is you're contracted in, you're stuck in that plan for as long as they give you a rate guarantee. And that's just not the way that those plans work. So for you to understand this better, basically, you could look at this as long as their rate guarantee is there, that's
Then
what
they're good. Yeah.
then they're good.
Yeah.
Ready for the question?
Burnell, let me ask Burnell. Burnell, Unum is going to give us another, yes, we ended 2021, but they're going to extend their rate for another year.
Another year, right.
There was the problem.
Okay, but
Are you ready
then
for the motion?
you talked about jumping into the other one right now.
No, we have to vote tonight on whether we're going to stay with Unum or go to US Able. That's what we're going to decide tonight.
Okay.
So we could,
Nancy, I'd like to make a motion.
okay, I don't know who that is.
That's
This is
Burnell.
Clyde. I'd like to make a motion to stay with Unum.
Okay, Clyde, is there a second?
Second.
That's Carol Broussard made the
Yes.
second. All those in favor of staying with Unum? Say aye.
Aye. Stay.
Aye.
Anyone opposed to staying with Unum?
Nancy, doesn't this need to go to public comment first?
It does. My apologies.
Okay, I'm sorry. Who moved? Who moved? I didn't.
Clyde Stansberry made the motion.
Clyde.
Carol-
Okay,
Carol-
Clyde, gotcha.
Carol was the second, and we'll have to
Yes.
vote again because I forgot to give out the phone number for public comment. 521-7018. If anyone has a comment, please call 521-7018.
Miss Nancy,
Yes.
it's me, Lamare. I have a question, and maybe it's more of a statement. I kind of feel like, Unum was strong-armed to meet to match the other companies. So, like, if there's no competitor for them, I feel like their rates are not going to be that good for us in the future. Like, are we gonna have to always strong-arm them? What's wrong with the other company, I guess, is my question.
They were not, Unum was not asked to give a bid until this time. When we met in September, Unum had not been asked to give a bid. But they were asked to give a bid now, and that was based, I don't think they were strong-armed at all. I think they were given the bid that US Able had proposed.
Well, I think it was mentioned by the gentleman that they matched. Like, in other words, he presented them with what US Able did. And I know nothing about US Able. I am not an advocate for anybody. I'm simply saying, like, I don't know. I just don't think that that's good business practices. If you're going to present your proposal and then you're going to say, oh, well, Team B is giving us a better deal. Will you match? Well, then go to Team B and say, well, now they've matched it. Are you going to go down on your prices? You know what I mean? Like, I don't like all of that.
I understand what you're saying. But that was the choice that was given to US Able. To Unum by US Able. They were given US Able's bid and asked to match it. So I don't know that they were strong-armed. I can't imagine Spain doing that.
Nancy, would you like for me I would like to say something. I appreciate the comment there. And I agree with Ms. Mouse. They weren't strong-armed. Again, my job is to go out and get as many of the carriers as we can to bid on business that will offer your employees and your retirees the best coverage at the best rates. So that's how we do it. And the good thing about this, and I know where this is going, and it's a great thing, that because we did this. Now Unum did lower their rates, and we're going to save the school board money. So it's all good. So I appreciate the way that you look at that, but don't look at it as strong arming. It's business. When I had the conversation with my contact at Unum, he said, "You don't have to give me any explanation. You can change this at any time." So all of these carriers know that this is how this works. We try to get them competing to drive those rates down.
Right, but is there a problem with the other company? Like, does Unum have a better rating or a better grade? Y'all mentioned letter grades earlier. Are they more reputable? Is there? I mean,
No.
I guess that's my question, because if Unum didn't go down on the prices on their own, they only went down because a competitor was challenging with a better price. Then, I mean, is this going to have to happen every time to get them to give a better price?
As I recall, in September, when we were approached with this, we were told that US Able would match Unum's rate. It wasn't until we get into this extra discussion at the school board meeting that Unum lowered, and then USA decided they would lower too.
No.
So it's on both sides. I think one key feature that came out of this is that in the future, after the contract is up, should we decide to stay with Unum, we do know that if we bid out long-term and short-term disability, there's a possibility that we may get better bids on both life insurance and disability insurance. So I think, that's optimistic.
Mia, I just wanted to add real quick, Ms. LeMayer, also, yes, Unum came down, and you can see on the chart, to match the price of US Able to save the district both the $65,000 and change. So that was matched, at least for everything but 1 year, because they extended by 1 year. The part here that I also want to add is that it's the guaranteed issue. So any employee out there that has cancer or is fighting something, there's a no question asked guaranteed rate for those other 3,500 employees, I think is what Trish said, that don't have the insurance. So that came into play also on the match with the price. So it's not just the price that was matched, it was the guaranteed rate also.
Do we have any calls from 521-7018?
That was my next question. So we're clear?
Okay,
No, ma'am, we don't.
Okay, Claude's motion.
I just think, Nancy, out of the blue that we're looking at another one when we're so far away from the end of the contract. And I understand what Shane said, that you can do it at any time, but it's quite unusual that happens.
Okay, so we have Clyde. We have Clyde that moved.
Clyde made the motion. Carol was the second.
And Carol second.
Carol second. All those in favor of staying with Unum, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. That's Burnell's dog. All right, next item on the agenda, and I will send that email to Brett Latchley for their meeting on the 2nd to let them know the decision of the committee. And everyone needs to remember what we decide is a recommendation to the board, and what the board chooses to do, the board chooses to do. The next item on the agenda, 7.3, contracts, participation of the Silver Script EGWIT webinar, Regenexx report that you needed, Shannon. And that is up to Trish.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to go over the 3 renewals that we have for the contracts that have changed since last time we spoke. We did renew the Blue Cross contract for another year from January of 2021 all the way to December of 2021. We also did the same with the stop loss. Lynn came to LPSS and spoke to us, and we renewed that contract as well. And we also renewed the EBI contract for 1 more year from January all the way to December of 2021. So those are the 3 changes that you see in the contract information.
Why did none of those come to the committee, Trish?
Yeah. We typically don't bring contract renewals to the committee. Some of them go directly through administration. I can give you other examples that we didn't bring to the committee, but no, ma'am, they all don't go through the committee.
Well, I know Blue Cross Blue Shield has been brought to us in previous years for approval prior to the renewal.
Yes.
I'm not saying it would have made a difference.
In the past, we've always looked at contract renewal. So how come you go back and look at that, Trish?
Well, not on everything, Ms. Carroll.
But on Blue Cross came before the committee.
To my knowledge, I don't remember that, in all honesty.
Can you look, can you check? Because I can remember Blue Cross coming before I come in. I don't know about the other two. I'm talking about Blue Cross.
Okay, I can certainly double check on it.
Thanks. Okay, what else?
I believe the second one was the Regenexx. I received an email from you, Miss Nancy, with regard to someone had contacted Dr. Bond's office to ask about the Regenexx procedure. You brought to light that someone was told that they were no longer in network. So we reached out to Hub to get some more information with regard to Regenexx. And Dr. Bond is not in network for any other carrier, but they will and are honoring the LPSS contract. So members can still seek Regenexx directly from Dr. Bond. We have a contract all the way until 6/30 of 21 with their office with regard to Regenexx.
Okay, next.
Ms. Shannon, did you have a question?
I had some questions about that because when that Regenexx proposal was brought to the committee, they were an in-network provider for us, and it was as a cost-saving move to help save some money for us. So are we still saving money if we're referring people there when he's no longer in our network? Because we made that decision, we made that recommendation with the information that he was in network, and now he is no longer taking any insurance. So to me, I'm just curious, will that still save us money? Or are we just sending people to this doctor for a non-FDA approved procedure with no benefit for us or for our members? That's my question.
Trish?
To my understanding, he's still honoring everything, and it is still a cost savings to the district. Am I saying that correct, Lynn?
And you're on mute.
Thanks, Brooke.
I apologize for that. I'm just trying to get the background. With regard to the Regenexx, Dr. Bond strictly provides those types of services, meaning that he's not in anybody's network. When you go to Dr. Bond, you're going to be going for those Regenexx types of procedures, and those procedures are far less costly than orthopedic surgery. So yes, the plan will continue to save money, and he will continue to see people on a Regenexx basis.
What will the difference, what will it look like? What will the cost to our members look like though? Because he's not taking our insurance anymore. And I know because in interest of full disclosure, I am a patient of Dr. Bond's. I am a patient, and I got the notification that they are now not taking any insurance and are billing people directly. So I would be interested to see a comparison between what a bill would look like for our members. You know, they're going to be billed directly for this. So is that going to save the member money, or is that going to cost them more, or what?
And that's kind of a twofold question that deserves a twofold answer. So if you're going to Dr. Bond for Regenexx services, okay, which you should, obviously, if you're going for the Regenexx services, he's going to be your doctor locally. There's other doctors around the country, but at any rate, he's the local provider for the Regenexx program. That will save you money because it's far less costly of a procedure, okay? Now, on the other hand, if you go to a non-network provider for something other than a Regenexx procedure, it would cost you dearly because you're not going to have that network discount, and he could bill you anything he wanted to.
So, but what's stopping him from billing anything he wants for a Regenexx procedure? Because those
Regenexx procedures have their own billing code and that type of thing, and they're far less costly than orthopedic surgery.
They're less costly, yes, and that makes sense because of hospitalization and anesthesia and all of that. But would that savings, even without the assistance of insurance, would that be passed along to the member or not?
It's going to be passed along to the member because you'll have a lower cost in your deductible and out of pocket. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So to answer your question, if a member chooses to utilize Regenexx versus a path of orthopedic surgery, there'll be savings to both the plan and the member because of the overall. Now, if the Regenexx procedure was high enough in cost to meet your deductible and out of pocket, whether you had the Regenexx procedure or a surgery from an in-network doctor, your deductible and your out-of-pocket's the same. So you can't spend more with either one as an employee. The plan could spend several dollars more on the surgery basis, but you could spend less, yes.
So if I got Regenexx, even though it's not an in-network provider, it would still affect my deductible and out-of-pocket?
It still goes towards your deductible and out-of-pocket, yes, ma'am.
And Lynn, that's because we are contracted with them directly. So they're kind of in that, would it be fair to say that they act in capacity of in-network because of the contract?
Right.
Yeah. But only for the Regenexx.
Right, only for the Regenexx.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah,
got it. I understand.
There's a fee schedule, if that kind of answers your question. There's a fee schedule based on different coding. So he has to abide by that schedule. He can't just charge what he wants. We have a schedule for that.
Okay, great. Thank you. Because when I saw that, I appreciate you taking the time to answer all those questions, because since I know when I got the notice as a patient that they were no longer in network, I became really concerned because I knew that we had contracted with them, but then they're going to leave our network after we've contracted with them. So I wanted to follow up on that and make sure that everybody was still going to be taken care of. So I appreciate that.
We appreciate you letting us know, because it could have happened to somebody else as well, Shannon. So thank you for letting us know.
Lynn, in regards to Regenexx, and I know we had high hopes on that, has it been long enough to see if we've gotten really the results we expected out of that
we're going to get reporting after the first of the year that'll give us a good 6 months, but indications are we're getting a lot of traffic. The other thing, I don't have that detailed reporting yet, but it sure was nice to see musculoskeletal drop from the top of the list. I'm sure that has some impact on it, but those numbers will be available when we do our end of the year meeting in July or early February. I'm sorry, January or early February.
So we are tracking that separately so we can kind of see, because, it concerns me that it wasn't FDA approved. I did a little research and it seems to be effective, but not highly effective. And, but I guess compared to surgery, is that same, effectiveness? I'm encouraged, but I'm also like to see it monitored closely.
Correct.
How much does this cost?
Brooke, can you get us the fee schedule?
Yes, what's the fee schedule for a Regenexx procedure?
Can you email that to everyone, Brooke?
Yeah, I can get that. It's going to depend on the procedure that you're having. So obviously
and there's no way you guys are going to know what procedure you might have. So looking at a fee schedule is really not going to serve you much purpose. Ms. Carol, to kind of answer your question, the statistics on Regenexx are that a Regenexx procedure can be utilized some 65 to 70% of the time versus an orthopedic surgery. So it's not going to fit the bill for all, it's not a replacement to all orthopedic surgery. It's a non-invasive alternative that just has far less cost than having a surgery done. So when you're talking about the difference in cost, the difference in cost is about 70% savings over an orthopedic surgery. But we can still get you that list. It's just not going to give you the answers to the questions that you're probably looking for.
Yeah, Lynn, I want to know if someone calls me and asks me, you know, Carol, how much is a Regenexx procedure? What's an estimate am I going to get? I know it depends on what you have done, but what's an average cost?
That all depends on what you'd have done. It'd be the same thing as asking an orthopedic physician, how much is a procedure going to cost? It depends on what procedure you're getting and how in depth it is. Or, you know, having a hip replaced can cost 180% difference depending on where you get it and how
you react to things, how you take things.
And Carol,
So
beyond savings is recovery, keeping the teacher in the classroom. There was a lot of pluses. I remember when we discussed this about, you know, less pain, less drugs, you know, so there's a whole bunch of pluses other than the financial side to this. So I was highly encouraged.
What's longevity? I'm paying out of pocket. How long is this procedure going to last?
I will say, if I can make kind of a comment, in the future, when we are asked to advise on specific procedures, if we could get a little bit more information about things like recovery, cost, and FDA approval, as a member of this committee, I would really appreciate it in the future.
Thank you, Shannon. It's a good suggestion.
Lynn, I have a question.
Butch?
Yes. We had talked about another procedure that is pretty much along the same lines as Regenexx. Hey, you had started to look into it, and we haven't heard anything else from there. Can you give us some more information with that?
I've had a couple of conversations with that physician practice. The hurdle that they have with that particular program, it's very similar type of technology, but they aren't. Regenexx is the only program in the industry that's set up to build an insurance company. So we're looking with Blue Cross on how that could actually be done with the other entity. And we'll report on that as we find out.
So maybe we can have that done or that come into play before the June deadline on Regenexx.
Possibility.
Okay, great. Just keep us informed, please.
Lynn, one more question. The RX benefits contract expires December 20th, according to what we have from Trish. Do you plan to renew that?
The RX benefits contract comes up every year with the updated rebates that we get every year, as well as the updated pricing. I actually did get a copy of the contract, but there was edit needed, so they're working on the revision, but it will be need to be signed again for 2021.
So you do plan to renew it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, Trish, I think we're still on yours. I think you're going to do the AGWIP participation.
Yes, ma'am. I got those numbers today from Cheryl, who presented during the seminars for the AGWIP. There was a total of 122 participants, about 20 on average per session, you could say. There were a total of 6 sessions. Retirees also watched the video. We had a few people come in and make phone calls or sit with us. We've had those instances too. We had about 122 members that participated in the actual webinar, to where they asked questions and got additional information.
Thank you very much. I think we're going to have to figure out another way to communicate with retirees, because we've got 2,200 retirees, and if only 122 got that information, I'm afraid that you might be inundated with phone calls in January when this switches. and especially the letter you sent me that is the next one to go out, that contained information that really is not applicable to LPSS, but there's no way, because Medicare is mandating what you put in the letter, as I appreciate it, there's no way for you to indicate to the LPSS retirees that things like a late fee don't even apply to them. It just had to be included in the letter. So maybe we can put our heads together and try and figure out a better way to communicate with retirees.
Now, they did have the option to view it, and several people called and printed the PowerPoint too, so those numbers can't be calculated. But yes, ma'am, for the members that actually participated in the webinar, the CVS team took note of all the questions that they asked so that they could pull that information too. A lot of them were centralized around pharmacies. Will I have to pay an additional cost? When will I get my cards? When will I get additional information? So they centralized around 5 to 7 questions. But we did have a lot of participants that did ask questions and participate in the webinar.
But we still just have 122 out of 2,200, and that's just too small of a percentage if we need to get accurate information before this changeover. That's my concern. Harold?
I want to share with Trish that I looked at the video and it didn't show I didn't know any new information after I watched them before. I asked questions, none of my questions were answered. So if you ask me, I'm going to tell you there was a non-informative piece of information.
They weren't able to answer your questions, Ms. Carroll?
No, not one of my questions, no.
Okay, if you've got those questions, I'll certainly have them followed up on, but I've participated in several of them and to listen in so I can make sure that the retirees were asking their questions and getting their answers.
Trish, I didn't know that you can put that video on the retirees' Facebook page.
I don't have access to it, but I can certainly send it to you. You
Okay.
have access to post it. I can make a note. Yes, ma'am.
I had emailed you some time ago about the robocall, using that to get to retirees. Is that a possibility?
I'm sure it's an option. My only concern with that is that retirees don't call and update their information if they've moved. In all honesty, they don't update telephone numbers once they move from or any location. Oftentimes it's even hard to get them to update their address information too. The most accurate address information we typically pull from Blue Cross.
Do we reach out to those retirees at all?
With regard to phone calls, no, ma'am.
I'm just concerned that come January, when everything to do with prescriptions for retirees changes, albeit for a certain segment of that population, that you're going to be inundated with calls from people who don't know what, they're going to get the cards and won't know what it is, because some people did not get postcards. Several people at Lafayette High I know from Lafayette High did not get postcards. So if we don't have the correct email address, and we don't have the correct physical address, and we don't have the correct phone number, how are we telling Medicare that the addresses we're using are correct? Or are they of the impression that we're contacting 2,200 people?
The addresses that are on file with Medicare, that's where Silver Scripts will be pulling their data so that they can send out these letters that are hitting doorsteps as we speak. They're coming, I believe the 30th, the next few days is when the letters will be hitting the doorsteps. So that's where they're pulling, when they have to update their information directly with Medicare, they have to ensure that their address is correct. That way that they get communications directly from Medicare.
And can you not get their correct addresses from Medicare?
Brooke, help me out with that one.
Medicare will not give us a direct feed. We can follow up with CVS and confirm if they can give it to us once they get it from Medicare. I'm just not sure what the HIPAA law states behind that, but I will definitely ask.
Yeah, we need to find a better way to make sure we have accurate information on retirees and we keep that information so that when situations like this come up and we have to make changes, we can inform a larger percentage of people.
I think with HIPAA, I don't think they're gonna be able to share those things, because even when I tried to do stuff for my dad before he passed, they wouldn't even give it to me. So I don't think they're gonna give it to the school board to get an address.
You may well be right, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen.
Then it becomes, how does the school board get the accurate information?
Well, yeah, and then it's for the retiree, the individual to call to do it. So that's what they're gonna get from Medicare is gonna be the best.
So do we have addresses for payroll deduction?
We do have addresses for payroll deduction. We can pull a database from there too. Oftentimes retirees won't call back to LPSS and update their address. They just won't. They tend to think of the pension system is where they update addresses. They think of Blue Cross, Dina Dental, anything to do with their benefits, but oftentimes
Medicare
payroll calling LPSS is not on their first thought.
Trish, maybe a good way to start, if we can't do anything about the past, but a good way to start is when these retirees are coming to your office to do their paperwork to retire, maybe you can get their information and explain the importance of updating it with the insurance office as well as payroll or Dina Dental or whomever. So you can do some education of the newer retirees at least.
Right, yes ma'am. And just a side note, we didn't have a whole bunch of postcards that did get returned. Those that did get returned, we've sent them back out, researched it, tried to send it out to the correct address. We double checked the pension system and Blue Cross to see if there was anything different. But there wasn't a large number of return postcards, I will admit
Some
that.
people didn't get any at all. So they wouldn't have been, I don't know where they went to, but they didn't. It's probably where my booklet from Hub International is.
Oh no.
All right, anything else for Trish? Thank you, Ms. LeBeau. Last thing is to schedule the next meeting, which is always left up to Mr. Fontaine.
Nancy, may I make a comment? I want to thank you for the last package you sent. That information was very thorough. It took me a while to peruse it, but I want to thank you because it had a lot of information in it.
Good point. Thank you, Carol. Lynn, next meeting?
Lynn, you're on mute again. No.
Trish, you might have to unmute him from your side.
There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. We can hear you now.
Oh, you're remuted. It's muted.
How about now, folks?
That's great, Lynn.
I didn't touch the button, I promise. Okay, so let's see if we're gonna, next meeting would be the year-end results, which we should look for something in first part of February.
I'm sure everyone would like a break from meetings. So what day in February, Lynn? Tuesday.
So just to let you know, we have no school board meeting calendar set for the 21 year yet. We are waiting for that submission from the president. So I know y'all like to sometimes coincide them. So we don't have anything at this time set for the following year.
Okay, well, we'll go ahead and set our meeting and tentatively, and if we need to change it, Ms. Gardner, we'll change it.
I will tell you we would have a conflict on Tuesday the 9th.
The second's fine.
February the 2nd?
Mm-hmm.
Is that okay with everyone?
I'm okay.
Okay.
Tuesday, February 2nd?
Yes.
All right.
At 5:30 via Zoom, unless we all have vaccines and life is wonderful again.
Something to pray for.
Yeah, absolutely. February 2nd, 5:30. Thank you, everyone. And to the whole committee and Trish and everyone who's been involved. I know it's been a challenging time since September, especially for our active teachers that are working all day, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate your willingness to be flexible and change meetings and call special meetings, and everything you've done. I think it's been nothing short of amazing this year. So thank you very much for all of your efforts and your time.
Do you have a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn this meeting. This is Clyde.
And I second it.
And this is Butch. Okay.
Thank you.
I appreciate all of your time. I really do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank y'all. Bye, y'all. Have a good Christmas.
Thank you for the minutes, Donna.
Hey.
Good night, y'all. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good night.